well during the this and I mean this conflict. Let's recall that also earlier today, U.S. President Donald Trump held a meeting with his national security team in the White House Situation Room this afternoon, and it was expected that during this meeting, President Trump was going to decide we were mentioning earlier, we are seeing at this moment live footage of retaliatory actions, retaliatory missiles launched and spotted at the sky night of Tel Aviv at this hour, that amid these tit-for-tat ongoing actions between the both parties included. Also, we can see how in neighboring countries the missiles have been spotted as well in the sky. This is a conflict that could have a wider impact, and is already having it in the whole region, and also is very threatening for the life of the citizens, mostly because are the main victims of this conflict that tries to impose a change of order, a change in the policies of a country, and this is something that has been tried to be imposed by the regime of Benjamin Netanyahu, also with the purpose of halting. Hi, join us as we go live to the Middle East in the context of the escalating conflict that is taking place in the region, as Iranian authorities are at this moment launching new retaliatory missiles towards main cities of Israel and also occupied territories of Palestine as well. This is about the 10th wave or 11th wave of retaliatory missiles launched from Iranian soil towards the Israeli main cities like Tel Aviv, Haifa, and also occupied territories of Palestine, in the constant back and forth launching of missiles, and also as part of a response, powerful and determined response from Iran in its willingness to protect their sovereignty in following a clear violation of international laws, and also in a clear violation of their territory, following the first attack that was launched by Israel 5 days ago on June 13th against the people of Iran, against the establishment of Iran as well. One of the main actions that have been taking place today were the explosions on Iran, and also missiles that hit Israel, as the attacks continue for a 5th straight day, with a Mossad office, which is the intelligence agency of Israel, an office that was targeted as well in Tel Aviv, and also there might have been an alleged high-level assassination in other territories of Iran as well. Well, this is also taking place at a context in which the U.S. is being a key aspect in this conflict, as it is fueling this conflict that is taking place in the Middle East, with showing their support to the Zionist regime in many ways, but specifically with the support and the sending of military aid, of military warships, and also the deployment of forces in the region in an attempt to undermine Iran's capability to their self-defense, and also to their self-determination of its people. We are seeing at this moment live footage from main cities of Israel, the capital. This is the night sky of Tel Aviv being impacted, about to be impacted by new retaliatory wave of missiles launched from Iran at this hour. Let's recall that is also taking place at a moment in which also the Gaza Strip has been severely impacted by the occupation forces of the Zionist regime of Benjamin Netanyahu, that is at this moment trying to expand its war of terror throughout the region that is already impacting or having consequences for all the countries of the region. We have been seeing at this moment throughout the day how, for example, Turkey's government has had to close its airspace. Also, there is an ongoing 55,432 people, and also have wounded 100 of Iran to keep boosting its nuclear program for the benefit of the civilian population in Iran, and also is taking place at a moment in which the United States and Iran were already having talks regarding this issue, and this is an attempt that has hampered these negotiation talks that were trying to, through diplomatic means, reach an agreement already. And this is the conflict. This conflict in place amid this context. In this scenario, Iran has shown its intention to leave the nuclear non-proliferation treaty. Also, this could mean that, for example, this was released earlier on Monday night, that Iranian parliamentarians were preparing a bill that could push Tehran towards exiting the nuclear non-proliferation treaty. According to Iran's ambassador to the International Atomic Energy Agency, the country's decision to withdraw from the Treaty of the Non-Proliferation Nuclear Weapons will depend on the future developments regarding Israel's acts of aggression on the Islamic Republic. Also, the Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said Israeli aggression is an unprecedented blow to diplomatic work, and we call on the European countries and the international community to see the reality as it is and condemn this aggression. Iran's legitimate defense against aggression will continue with force. We hold the Zionist entity and its supporters responsible for the consequences of any escalation in the war. Also, Israel launched this war against the Iranian people with the direct support and complicity of the United States. Iran also is marked at a context in which seen this before during the ongoing genocide against the people of Palestine as well. On Monday, which was the fourth day of since the escalation of hostilities burst out, the Israeli regime forces raided an apartment in Haifa where a foreign news crew was filming the skyline. Also, there was an attack on the Islamic Republic of Iran broadcasting building as well. Also, there have been so many reactions to this brutal aggression that was performed by Israel on the early hours of Friday, which was June the 13th, when the escalation of hostilities began after and following this attack. And there have been so many reactions. For example, the foreign minister of Iran assured that the aim of Israel's attack on Iran is to thwart the agreement between Tehran and Washington regarding the nuclear power plant. We are seeing, as we speak, we are seeing the skyline of Tel Aviv, which is under the attack, and also under the lights of the retaliatory missiles that were launched by Iran a few moments ago, to make it clear for the entire community and all the entire international community, but also to make Israel be sure that Iran is willing to defend itself, is willing to do it with an enormous capacity, military capacity, and also has no intention to damage or to create or to target civilians, not like Israel is doing at this current moment, targeting residential buildings. Iran is willing to destroy, to damage Israel's military capacity, Israel's military facilities, and as well intelligence facilities. Earlier today, the Mossad headquarters in Tel Aviv was targeted as well, leaving a devastating picture. Also, this has been repeated in several other sectors of Tel Aviv, images that were also so common between the Palestinian people on the Gaza Strip, but now we are seeing it on the very capital of the Zionist regime, of the genocide regime of Benjamin Netanyahu. There are ongoing retaliatory actions that we are seeing at this moment, missiles impacting the capital of Israel in Tel Aviv as well. Everything indicates that the purpose of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's criminal attack on Iran, with the killing of hundreds of innocent civilians, including women and children specifically, is to sabotage an agreement between Iran and the United States, which were on the right path to achieve, and this was mentioned by Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi earlier on Monday. This is taking another U.S. president, this criminal war is taking another U.S. president and more U.S. taxpayers for complete fools. This is what the Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi mentioned after talking to his official account on the platform X earlier on Monday. Also, in turn, the Iranian Foreign Minister added that every country's prime minister is wanted, a wanted war criminal. He's referring to Netanyahu, and also a swindler who has successfully tricked U.S. presidents into fighting his wars for nearly 3 decades. Let's recall that earlier on 1995, Benjamin Netanyahu mentioned during a meeting with high officials of the United States back then that Iraq should be targeted by U.S. military, and so it happened. Also, he's been calling for decades, and he's been obsessed for decades with Iran's capacity to build or to enrich its uranium, and also in prompting its nuclear capacity. And he has been obsessed with this idea of attacking Iran for decades, and now it's fulfilling that thirst with the complicity of the very own United States, in a context in which U.S. citizens have no interest in this war because they have already many crises, multidimensional crises happening on the very inside of the basis of the society of the United States, which also is impacting, it's attacking one of the main powerful working force of the country, which are the migrant community inside the United States. At this moment, there have been over 10 days of protest inside the United States, with a huge movement spreading throughout the country against the anti-immigrant policies of President U.S. Donald Trump. And in this context, Trump is also inciting this war, and also hasn't made a decision yet regarding if the United States is going to join this battleground that he has been the one and main supporter and promoter of. So at this moment, Iranian missiles can be seen in the sky over central occupied Palestine as well. Also, missiles have hit as well the capital of Israel in Tel Aviv. Israeli defense missiles also fell in Tel Aviv after failing to intercept an Iranian rocket as well. Iranian missiles are also falling and also can be seen above occupied Palestine. We are transmitting the direct Iranian missile hit in Tel Aviv at this hour. Let's recall that this has been repudiated by the whole international community, but especially by all the countries that form the Middle East and also Arab and Islamic countries as well. A joint Arab-Islamic foreign minister's statement said the following, and I quote, "Israeli attacks constitute a flagrant violation of international law and the United Nations Charter. We call for an immediate cessation of hostilities and respect for the sovereignty of states. We reaffirm the need to prevent any attack on Iranian nuclear facilities under international supervision. We insist that dialogue and diplomacy are the only way to resolve the crisis in the region." Also, Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian has been strong on his determination to show the world that he has no fear, that he has the support of the Iranian people, that Iran is going to be defending itself from all the threats that poses Netanyahu's regime for Iran, but also for the entire Middle East region and beyond. Also, the President of Iran, Masoud Pezeshkian, warned that if the U.S. government does not rein in the savage Zionist regime, the Islamic Republic will have to show more painful responses. This was mentioned earlier on Monday during a telephone conversation with the Sultan of Oman on Monday. President Pezeshkian cautioned against the consequences of the Israeli regime's acts of adventurism in the region. Also, Iran warned today that if the U.S. is brave enough to intercede, to be part of this conflict directly, Iran is going to target several military spots inside the U.S. and also in military occupation zones throughout the region. This is a very complex scenario for the world to witness. The whole world is watching with concern what is the first wave of Iranian missiles being launched at this moment in a night that promises to be a very busy one, a very intense night. Also, let's recall that the leader of the Islamic Revolution, Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Khamenei, has warned that the Zionist regime must now await severe punishment for its aggression. This was released moments before the terrorist attack performed by Israel against Iran on June 13th. Also, the armed forces of the Islamic Republic of Iran have been conducting heavy retaliatory attacks 5 days into this conflict. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, during a joint telephone call with the foreign ministers of the European Troika and European Union High Representative for Foreign Affairs, it is the duty of all member states of the United Nations and the Security Council to confront the blatant Israeli aggression against our country. Also, Iranian armed forces launched a barrage of missiles in a coordinated operation aimed at Israeli targets. This is what we are seeing now at this moment. Iranian armed forces launched a barrage of missiles in a coordinated operation aimed at Israeli targets. Iranian retaliatory missiles are spotted at this moment over the sky of the West Bank, in Nablus precisely, which is the main city of the occupied West Bank. According to our defenses of the Islamic Republic of Iran, they launched this 11th wave of missiles against Israel. Also, this happened after following attacks of the Israeli regime as well. In this tit-for-tat actions that have and this trade of missiles from one side to the other constantly ever since the action, the first terrorist action took place on this week and 5 days ago, and as this conflict is entering at this moment in its 5th day of constant escalation of the hostilities as well. Also, these actions have proved how Iran has been capable of vulnerating Iran's Iron Dome, which was one of their main goals or their main military actions that would make them proud at an international level, and how Iran has been capable of destroying this strategic mechanism, military mechanism, has been showing the real strength of Iran in performing and carrying these retaliatory measures, and how they have been vulnerating constantly Israel in this moment as well. Also, this exchange of attacks comes, as we mentioned, after Israeli bombings of nuclear facilities in Isfahan, also in Fordow, both that were confirmed by International Atomic Energy Agency, and also reported damage to both. However, the damage so far is controllable, is manageable, and is very rare, and it's very much unlikely that Israel could succeed in destroying the Iranian nuclear facilities of the country. Those facilities are very well defended by the Iranian armed forces at this moment. There has been a strong military deployment in this moment as well. According to the Iranian government, the targets of its responses to Israeli attacks are the financial center of Tel Aviv, the Israeli Ministries of Defense and Economy, the Tel Aviv Air Base, multiple locations in the Haifa area, also the gas platform off the coast of the Gaza Strip as well. Also, Iran has been constantly denouncing the United States' complicity in this new Israeli aggression against Iranian territory before the United Nations Security Council, specifically during an extraordinary session that was convened by Tehran on Saturday, June 14th. The Iranian Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps carried out Operation True Promise 3 against several military targets in Israel. Also, there have been 11 waves of attacks at this moment reported so far. The Iranian Guard forces assure that it is giving also a precise response against dozens of targets of the Zionist regime. We are seeing at this moment how these attacks, retaliatory attacks, are unfolding, and in this very busy night for both of the sides in conflict. In this wave of attacks, the Israeli health authorities have been reporting several casualties as well, and this is part, as we were mentioning, of retaliatory measures, retaliatory actions, as promised by the Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who promised that Iran was set to respond with force. Also, there have been so many reactions worldwide. Cuba was one of the main countries that repudiated these terrorist actions that were prompted, that started by the Israeli regime of Benjamin Netanyahu, as if the genocide in Palestine wasn't enough. Now the world is seeing how Israel is keeping up with its intentions to keep expanding its power through horror and through terror as well, and also how it's besieging the Palestinian enclave in a daily basis at the same time. So the whole community, the whole international community is watching with heavy concern all that is taking place, and all of the thoughts are with the main victims of these confrontations, which are always and mainly and mostly the most vulnerable people in both sides of the conflict, which are women, which are children, which are the elderly people. Also, this is a conflict that is starting at this moment, that has no end in sight, that there are so many variables in this equation, and also needs to be analyzed with very deep. Also, this attack have also been a response, and also this have been non-stop for all of 4 or 5 days ongoing, and to keep analyzing the real consequences of this conflict that the world is seeing with great concern. We have a guest, a special guest, Bruno Lima, who is an expert, an international analyst, and he is joining us to go deep into what is going on in the Middle East. Hi, Bruno. Thank you very much for joining us.
Okay, thanks for having me. Sorry for my cough.
It's
I have
okay.
no voice anymore. Long
Bruno,
journeys like you and like all of us. So I'm here, glad to help you.
thank you, Bruno, for being here with us. Bruno, on your opinion, what are the implications of this major escalation for the countries of the region?
Maybe this is not yet escalation because, as far as I can see in Iranian media, the Islamic Republic is putting, as they say, the 5 to 10% of the capability of the military capacities. From the Zionist side, the escalation for them is to be even more helped by United States or NATO. For example, today we saw in Western media 12 F-35 fight jets flying from Great Britain to the occupied Palestine that they used to call this Israel, and also with 6 fuel plants, those who can reinforce fuel while the fight jets are on the air. So the real escalation is a threat that has been said by even Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu that involve directly, at least on bombardment against Iran, US jets and US capacities. If this comes true, this will be the real escalation because nowadays what we can see a war of attrict when a war of friction when Israeli committed the first aggression, international criminal again, the international crime again, as always. Iran retaliates and answers, and this come and go, come and go. On this way, without Israel receiving full aid from US and NATO, Iran will win in a pair of weeks or even 2 or 3 months. But it's impossible, and I finish with this, to imagine that the Western powers will allow a Middle Eastern regional power to win over their colony, which is Israel. So we can think that what will be the next move of Donald Trump? A threat and a bet because he's a gambler to surrender Iran, or to even get more involved in this war and not putting boots on the ground. They're not crazy enough for this, but bombarding Iran with U.S. capabilities. Maybe this way.
You are mentioning precisely the possibility of U.S. President Donald Trump interceding and participating directly in this conflict. On your opinion, what could be the impact? What impact could it have? The direct presence of the U.S. in the Middle East in this conflict.
Depends on the Russian side and depends on the Pakistani side, and you can read it the China side. Because on Saturday, and I think I said this to you or to other colleague in teleSUR English too, we've heard the Prime Minister and the Defense Minister of Pakistan promising to full involvement of their country to Iran, including to warfare, weaponry, missiles, jets, and if US would attack Iran or any other Western powers, Islamabad threatened Tel Aviv to receive a direct attack from Pakistan. After
This
that, I did not hear any more from Islamabad than promises and people shouting on the streets.
this
That's
conflict
my point.
this conflict began after Israel tried to undermine the ongoing negotiations between the United States and Iran regarding Iran's nuclear plan. And at this moment, there are informations that Iran is considering withdrawing from the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty after these
Mhm.
attacks. How would this change the balance of power in the region and the future development of these tensions?
I think that the time has come to Iran do not even sign any agreement that do not involve Israel. If Israel would sign the non-proliferation, the non-proliferation of treaty, the TNP, maybe Iran would sign it too again. But now, this is a joke because I would say this: of a team of U.S. intelligence agencies has told directly to Donald Trump that Iran is not interested, it's not developing a nuclear weapon. And Donald Trump said, I don't care. I don't care what they say. For me, they're all liars. And Netanyahu is repeating the same lie about nuclear weapons in Iran since 33 years old. He's, for long 33 years, he's been repeating the same thing. So Iran being part of none of the treaty today is secondary. I think that the primary goal to Iran is to have the capacity to prove that he can defeat Israel, and he's proving, and may achieve a treaty with Western powers to not be bold and not be agreed, not receive any aggression anymore. And I really think that, and I insist with this is the time for Russia to play hardballs. This is the time for China to play hardballs. Loud and clear, we do not accept an aggression against our ally. I'm not seeing this yet. I hope to see this soon.
Do you think that the international community is really capable of doing something to halt this ongoing conflict in the Middle East?
No, I think that Russia can, Pakistan can, because they all have nuclear weapons, and they are all powers, especially China and then Russia. And in military affairs, first Russia, then China. And Russia and Iran, and China and Iran, they are allies, especially Russia and Iran in military affairs. Iran helped a lot to Russia in the war with Ukraine, and you can read it, the war against NATO. So this is the time to be retributed. That's what I really think. From NATO, I can only imagine a Libyan solution, a Syrian solution, a dissolution of the Islamic Republic, and a full sectarian civil war for the glories of the capitals and the hedge funds and the oil industry. But from China and Russia, I still expect something more.
Thank you, Bruno, very much for your time here with us.
Thanks for having me.
We're speaking to also this attack have also been a response.
Evidente.
It is evident evident how the people of Iran, with a centuries-old state, have proved the military superiority against the Zionist regime, and the world doesn't want war, and we do not want war. So the powerful nations of the region and the powerful nations of the world need to sit with each other and force the Zionist state to stop its aggressions and respect international law. That must be the way. The escalation cannot be the way, the violence of war, of bombs and death. I made a call to my brothers from the Jewish people of Israel to respect. We do respect, as lovers of the Word of God, the people, the heir of Abraham, of David and Moses. I've said this before. In my blood runs Sephardi blood from my great-grandmother and great-grandfather from Portugal in 1942. Anti-Semitism was after them, and the name of that legacy that runs through my blood. I made a call to the Jewish people, the noble people, Jewish people of the world that lives on the Palestinian lands, occupied lands, or who live on the limits of the Israeli state. You need to stop this war. You need to stop Netanyahu, and you need to put an end to this madness, war of madness against all neighboring countries and all this madness of trying to conquer all the Middle East and Asia. It is a Hitler kind of idea. It's a supremacist idea, a Nazi idea that must be defeated by the people of Israel. So this is my call to the Jewish people. And it's also my call on Tuesday, June 17th, 12 years ago, a day like this, I had the opportunity, most beautiful opportunity that one can have to get to know and become friends with Pope Francis. Honor and glory for Pope Francis and for his call for peace. 12 years today, we met 12 years ago at the Vatican. Today, I made a call to the United States citizens. Do you want another war? Do you want to be involved, the U.S. to be involved in this massacre, in this blood and destruction of the peoples, of the Muslim peoples, of the peoples of Iran, of the Arab peoples? And the United States to be marked as the potentially initiator of the Third World War. I made a call to the United States people, to the noble people who were on the streets recently, to the people. Only the people of the United States can overcome this idea and destroy this idea of the U.S. to get involved in this war. This is a call that we have been making from Venezuela, from peace, from the streets of every corner, from the north to the south and west to east of the United States. Rise up, one single voice, no to war, no to war. The people of the United States defeated the war in Vietnam when they murdered to over 1 million people, women and men, with an idea of to colonize Vietnam. Or did you forget about this? They already entered Iraq and killed thousands of Iraqis, and also in Libya, and murdered over 200,000 men and women from Libya. with bombs and consecutive bombs and consecutive bombs. They already entered in Afghanistan. Of the United States forgetting about what the US did in Afghanistan in 20 years. And how did you leave Afghanistan? Why do you want to destroy 90 million women and men of Iran? Iran is a centuries-old story, and it must be respected. So I made a call from South America, from the ideal of Bolivar, for the United States citizens to stop this tendency of war that want always to put the United States into war. No to war. No to war. 1,000 times we say no to war from the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. And let's move forward in building our path of harmony, of coexistence among all, of national unity, of peace, harmony, of construction of our own models, economic models, education models, cultural models. Next July 27th, and with finishing Dr. Jorge Rodriguez this small intervention to say these final words. This first workshop of planification of the parliamentary majority of the National Assembly for the period 2026-2031, and then at that moment we will keep united. I have the period 2025-2031 period, and you have been elected for the period 2026-2031, so we are going to be together for the upcoming 5 years, working for Venezuela, offering peace and strength to our country. This cannot be forgotten. But there is a great task ahead. The National Electoral Council today said that at noon, at midnight, the elections are closed for the municipal councils and mayorships. The commander of the Kurdo, Jorge Rodriguez, of Curva Jorge, he informed me the greatest victory of July 27th, a day of victory. I want to thank you for so much struggle, for all the work, and I say to you, long live, go to victory will prevail. Thank you very much, brothers and sisters. May God bless Venezuela. La puerta en el valle del Mogoy. Si yo no me quedo en la casa, pues al combate me voy. Voy a defender la puerta en el valle. Ministry, and an estimated also 1,139 people were killed as well in Israel during this conflict. Let's recall that also earlier today, U.S. President Donald Trump held a meeting with his national security team in the White House Situation Room this afternoon, and it was expected that during this meeting, President Trump was going to decide